So we're going to talk about some really, if you're Demi saying, some really kick-ass great tools for, financial instruments for a resilient localised economy is what I'm supposed to be talking about. So let's see what happens? Oh, there we go. So money is all important. You know, it's like water. You don't have it and you're in deep trouble, and you sure as hell don't really want to be depending on people and a banking system the other side of the world to decide whether you get money and whether you're in desperation and starve, or whether your community is prosperous and thriving. I'm sure the people of Northland, like most people everywhere, would like to survive, and not just survive, but to prosper and to do well and to build a better future and a better world. Not just for our children, but for our human meaning on this planet. And the tools I'm going to talk about, I would like to think, well, I know so, are the tools. It's a special present here for you people of Northland that you can get to work with. And the age-old thing is, but we don't have the money. Well, the truth is you do have the money. So I'm going to tell you what the money is and how you've got it, and give you examples of how other people have put it to work. And so that's what we're talking about, local and alternative currency examples, a little bit about alternative investment and lending options, which is about peer-to-peer finance, and a bit about the beyond money revolution that's happening in the world. So we're even moving beyond it, very Star Trek. So to the toolkit, what have I got for you? What's the toolkit? But just having a really good toolkit, and these things I'm talking about are the real means to building, to enabling trade and exchange for your businesses and for your community activity. It's a liquidity for your business and community activity. And of course, you're already doing a lot of these things, but not all of them you might have thought of as money, but they are money. So we're going to talk a bit about money. But just the toolkit, the best toolkit's not enough, because if you don't have power, or you don't know what exactly you're making, or have some skills to do it, you're not going to produce anything. And of course, underneath money is energy. Energy is a big component of money. You only have an economy if you have a suitable quota of energy. So we've just come through an era of a lot of cheap, abundant, amazing energy source. So we're moving into an interesting future now where they're on the border of Russia now over energy wars. So the world has actually been at war now for quite a long time over the remaining energy stocks. And the war is against our environment here in Aotearoa, where they want to come and mine every last scrap of what might be, the last dregs. So we're going to need to talk a little bit more about not just these tools of money, but what is money. And that comes forth with the idea about, well, what is the economy? This is all about a resilient, localised economy. The thing is with the monetary system is it's completely flawed. Not only, in 2008 did the whole free market capitalist system that we've been force-fed for the past half a century completely failed on every level possible and was bailed out by civil society and taxpayers and through fraud, more fraud by printing more counterfeit money, just print a few more trillions and give it to the most undeserving people. But the monetary system is also completely outdated. It's last century technology. It's like watching the Avatar movie in black and white film reel. It's long gone, and we don't actually need that system run by a bunch of privileged people who create money out of thin air and have completely abused that privilege. So, to understand money, we need to look at some of these other instruments that are actually money as well. What is money? And part and parcel of money is innovation and technology. It's goodwill and collaboration. They often go on about the invisible hand in the marketplace. But the real invisible hand is the hand of goodwill, which holds our world up. The other invisible hand of the marketplace ate all its own fingers and became the all too visible stump back in 2008. Collaboration. What is the value of collaboration? And other things that are integral to us and money. You see, if it's just about money, then you end up with a value system like America became based on. It lost its other values, and it was, if you've got money, that is virtue, and that's virtue enough. It doesn't matter how you got it, and if you can get away with it and you got it, that's a virtue. And then you get a really harsh and desperate society. And then despite all its economic wealth, the great model that we follow, you compare America to Cuba, which was a complete basket case economy that everybody around the world did sanctions against, and everything was going against it. In Cuba, you can get good health care and good education. In America, you can die in the gutters, and you'll be indebted for your whole life to get an education. And America, the middle class of America are no more, people. I don't know what you're watching on TV, but they're gone. The middle class of America are gone, and there's nothing going to bring them back in a hurry unless America completely reinvents itself, and it ain't going to come from Wall Street. The great planet-killing Ponzi scheme that is Wall Street. So these are real things that motivate us, and they're our capital, and they are our motivation, and they are the wheels of activity of how we live and what we decide. And our story is everything. It's all important. I mean, there's probably a tale of two Northlands, and I love coming to Northland because it's a magical place and you're beautiful people. And I'm not just saying that, although, you could. But, so, what do we value? Sorry that this slide kind of fell apart, but what I've got here saying about what are the things we value, because what we value, as well as what we have to sell and the time we have to give, that is our money. We are our money. Money doesn't come magically from some people in the Federal Reserve in America or something, called the Bank of Reserve. We are our money. Our money is what we do and what we value. And these are the things I know that we value. We value our youth, our children. We value our elderly. We value caring. What price? An uncaring society is just, compared to a caring society, well, it's a no-brainer. Art, culture, expression, our environment, food, health, housing. These things all came up, a lot of these this morning. So this is a reality revolution we all have to get. Not this emperor's blimmin' naked lie that we've been living, that it's all about some economic theory and some monetary system that only they can produce it for us on their terms. That's what we're about to jump over. That's about what we're now going to outwit, especially here in the far north. So the first example I'm going to talk about this is time banks, because this follows on. You, of course, have a time bank here in the far north. It's just percolating away and coming up. So Rebecca, of course, with the panel here, is going to talk a bit about what's happening here with the time bank here. So that's exciting. I'll just mention that, in general terms, a time currency it's an hour for an hour for an hour. It's a very egalitarian system. It's one system, one of many systems we have at our disposal. And I'm a keen fan of using multiple currencies. And a time bank's great because everyone has time. Now, Margaret Jeffries in Littleton, she was working on a project based on local community development, Project Littleton. So she saw the time bank as one of their activities, but one that would feed back into building their community. So their time bank currency is, if I can call it a currency, their time bank currency is all about building Littleton, making it a stronger, more connected community that honours and respects all the people in that community. So now that's a good currency, isn't it? That makes sense. And so with a time bank, you can, anyone, like the gardener or the childcare person or the person who's going to do gardening or some other service work, you can do an hour, and when you do, your money is created. Your credit is created in the bank, and you can get that from someone else and their time and skills within that network. And a lot of people have time. Some people would say to Margaret, oh, but what could I do? I don't really know anything I could do. And Margaret would say, well, could you hold a telephone conversation for a few hours a week? Oh, yeah, I could do that. And so Margaret said, well, we have housebound elderly in our community who can't get out and are isolated. Could you ring them a couple of times a week for an hour and have a conversation, see how they are, check in on them? So so in Littleton, unlike many modern communities around the world, if you can call them communities, in Littleton, there are no housebound elderly sitting there at home by themselves, disconnected from the rest of the community, because people are ringing up and checking in on them and seeing how they are. And that probably leads to all sorts of other activities. And the people who are doing that are getting a credit in the time bank, which they can use to get childcare or someone coming to make meals in their home, or maybe some, building work or the things like that. And, they've been able to get the value of Margaret's daughter's got Down syndrome, and she is able to go and deliver newspapers for the community newspaper and get paid in time credits. And in turn, she uses that to get cooking classes from someone else. So, and it's no surprise that the book, which Helen there has on the Living Economies book stand, the original kind of time banking book was called No More Throwaway People, because Edgar Kahn realised that in our society, our modern society, so focused on that the people who are doing the 9 to 5 thing in the mainstream, they're it, and the rest of us are all like sidekicks if we don't fit in that. So what about all the retired people, or the people with disabilities, or the stay-at-home parents, or the people who only have part-time work or no work? Is their time not valuable? Well, of course it is. And when we went to America, I shared this story, a story that really exemplified this, even though it wasn't a time bank story, but it exemplified this ethic of no more throwaway people. That in Kaitaia, I believe there was some people initiated a thing called CoHard Day, and that people had time, and that what if you could have some, build something around people giving their time to some community projects, and that led to the surfing day for people with disabilities who are normally in wheelchairs, getting out and doing a day surfing, because you had a large, you had a good pool of able-bodied people who were able to help the other people who hadn't gone surfing in a long time, I'm sure, to get out there and have a day. And even the very landlocked American people were very moved by this, as people always are when they hear this story from Kaitaia, because this is imagination and valuing people and what they have to give. Because one of the hardest things when you don't have a lot of money is your ability to give. It kind of cuts off, and that the richness of giving is such a huge thing. And it's nice to receive too. So, what aren't we tapping? And time banks are so beautiful in doing that, which Rebecca will talk more about that. And of course, if you have volunteers who may be working on St. John Ambulance or so much community work, you could credit the people here in the north, if they're a member of a time bank, that your hour is now credited for all the hours you give to the community. And now, if people say, oh, but I gave that, I don't need that, you can, then they could put that into a community chest, and suddenly you have a pool of hours in there. You might have people have donated 40 hours this month, and there's a family in need down the road, and we would like as a community to use these given hours in the time bank to go and help this family and do up their house for them, because there's been illness in the family or something. So let's go and use those hours to support that. Oh, we're going the wrong way. Well, I think we're going the right way, but so yes, about this thing. So the monetary system is we have things like time banks, but time banks are just one system we have at our disposal in our potential toolkit. The future of money, I believe, is multiple currencies. And in some ways you already, if you've got a coffee, a coffee loyalty card or something, or a Flybuys card or something, they're a form of currency or credit system in some ways, But, so I'm going to talk a little bit about these different currencies, but mainly about Let's, but I will mention these other ones. There's lots of different systems. And the value of having different currencies is that they can represent different needs that you have and different applications. Some currencies might be appropriate to just an event or a project in your community. You might be wanting to build something in your community and you build a currency around that, which actually Di, who it turns out, you have a counsellor here, a fabulous counsellor who is playing with ideas like that. What could we do with that? And so we have time banks, we have let systems, which I'll talk a bit about. We have things like Barter card, which I'll mention in a moment. Probably a lot of you have heard of Bitcoin has got some press. It's an electronic global currency that people some people see it as a revolutionary system. The geeks love it. It's an electronic system. Other people think it's a great way to launder money or something or escape taxes. It's just one system. There'll be 100 of them within a few years' time, or hundreds. There already are hundreds of new currency systems. It's mix and matching which ones you want. I think Bitcoin's fun. It's tested the waters and it's got people's imagination going, but there's been lots of other ones. Ubi, out of our own backyards, is a system that sprung up out of Auckland. People sharing backyard food. They developed their own currency, which they called rubies, for doing a credit in backyard food swapping. So Ubi's gave their currency is called rubies. I've seen ones called loaves, based around the value of a loaf of bread. In Bainbridge Island in America, there's a guy who wants to build one based around cheese. Maybe it should be called cheesies. I've seen ones based around just education, and there's one called Granditos. I've heard about. It's supposed to be based on gratitude, dignity, and love, which I haven't quite got my head around exactly how it works, but I want some of that in my pocket. Who wouldn't, huh? In Würgel in Austria, in the Depression, in answer to the fact that their monetary supply was pulled out from underneath them, like it was all across so many places in the 1930s Depression and in the 1870s Depression in America, or for other reasons in the Weimar Republic in Germany, where money became valueless. And actually my grandfather was there at the time, and yes, people did carry currency around in wheelbarrows, and when you waited for a cup of coffee that was $100 when you started in line, it would be $120 by the time you got further up the line. Russia in 1989, for when various reasons their economy was gone overnight, or Argentina 2001, which was a fairly buoyant country, and one day they woke up and their monetary system completely failed on them, and they got through using alternative currencies, and which are basic. But in Würgel in Austria, the local government totally backed the local currency, and that would be a fantastic thing. Here in the far north, it would help people possibly pay rates if they duly and fairly deserve to pay rates or not. That's another debate. But it's a way of that people could pay a percentage, maybe 5 or 10% of their rates could be paid in a local currency. Maybe your power company up here could take 10% of the power bill in a local currency. And that adds a real confidence to the whole business sector and households. Then everyone wants to buy in and use this currency, which is going to create liquidity, which I'll talk a little bit about how that's worked in Golden Bay with our let system. The great thing is you can experiment with this and you can play with it, and the key thing is to develop your own currencies that work for you. There are ones just totally off the shelf. In Switzerland, they have the Wehrbank, which is we, and it has 62,000 members in Switzerland, doing 6.5 billion francs a year in trade. So it's a serious barter network, because it's just about exchange. That story that you told, Ken, about the $100 note. It's a slightly dodgy kind of new industry possibilities. It doesn't matter. I met a guy in Papua New Guinea, and he came to our 2009 Community Currencies Conference in Wanganui, and he said that traditionally they use pig tusks and shells over there. So that's bad luck for you, Mr. Porker, but I'm sure up here in Northland there would be some appeal about a currency based around pig tusks. But it doesn't matter what it is. What it matters is about what you do, what you value, what you want. the currency is just a matter of, it's just a medium. It can be monopoly money or what have you. You have to manage it. How you manage your currency is really important. It has to, doesn't matter if you're a local, Kaitaia currency or the Fed of America. You need to manage it well. You can't go printing trillions because that would be crazy. So you need to manage it in a prudent way, and it's how many people you get in to use it is how powerful it will be to what you want to do with it. So Let Systems, they took off back, there's hundreds of them all over the world. They've been going for many years. Neil was a member of one in Nelson. I think at one time there were 60 up and down New Zealand by the early 90s. They only got going in the late 80s, and then by the early 90s there were about 60 going up and down New Zealand. By the end of the 90s they'd got down to, I think, only less than a dozen working, only about 6 or so, because good times weren't so good for a little, barter network on a local thing. If a lot of people are making 5%, 10% capital gains on their house tax-free a year, what do they care about a little, folksy kind of trade barter network? But as we know, as Nicole will tell you, 2008 was only a warning shot across the bows. There's actually, despite it all being a mixture of things in 2008, but it was definitely way too much credit had been created, way too much money. There's now 40% more debt in the world than there was in 2008. It's a system that's not going to last. The Great America can't afford to pay its pension funds or anything. It's falling apart in all sorts of ways. 7,000 major bridges there that have ticky tape over them because they can't afford to fix them. Roads going back into gravel that were bitumen. The Great America is running out of gas real fast, and the world economy. There's dozens of economies around the world, like Spain and Ireland and Greece and all the rest of it, and the party's over. It's back to basics. It's time to rebuild from ground zero, because Spain had a booming, bigger than Auckland, booming property bubble, and they've got over 60% unemployed, and they're young now. 25 to 30% across the board, worse than the Depression. So then you've got to think, how do we do this? And in some ways, the people in the privileged parts of New Zealand don't have a clue. Northland's got the advantage on them, because you know what it's like to not have, a lot of spending power and the like. So you pick this stuff up, and you can leapfrog, and you can bring them all up here and educate them, and charge them in a suitable currency. And of course, Lewis, if there's a hard landing for the economy, you may have 10% of Aucklanders need to migrate out of Auckland back to the rural areas. You can work out how many people that would mean would come up here. So the housing thing's going to become important. I would encourage the council to have an innovative alternative housing committee working on allowing and experimenting with stuff. You don't have to change your whole paradigm, but do it. Now, the thing about a local currency is, a Let system, is Thomas Greco, who is our guest speaker at the Community Currencies Conference, a friend of Helen's. He said, look, it's not about local currencies support local economies. And especially, a Let system is all about, they call them local exchange and trading system, local exchange trading systems, or local employment trading systems, because they actually came out of a high unemployment era of the late 80s. So he said, it's sure, you do your global trade where it suits, but you build a shelter for your local economy. Your boats go out across the ocean and trade, but you protect your local economy. It's only sensible. It's not saying, it's not an isolationist lead helmet mentality. It's a complement. So that's why we often call them complementary currencies. So you can have a community, a neighbourhood, a school currency, a council-backed currency, and a regional one, and other barter systems that are global. You might have a Google dollar or a Facebook dollar, Lord forbid. So you have appropriate currencies and your national currency. And in time, when we have enlightened government, we'll have that you can pay your taxes in the currency they were produced in, and that will be a big bonus. So it's as simple as having something to trade. Now, they look all pretty folksy things, but they mean a lot to me. But some people might go, mainstream business people go, well, that's all very good, massage and homemade boots or something. But Barter card in New Zealand has 7,000 businesses. It's a business-to-business barter system, trading network, non-cash. It uses it's electronic, and it also uses swipe cards, ATM swipe cards. And that's architects, lawyers, accountants, and the like are members of that. Hotel chains. Unfortunately, there's a very good Irish bar in Wellington that totally takes Barter card. And stay away. It's a great bar. So in Golden Bay, we use a let system. It's been going for a good amount of years, since '89. It was kind of called Golden Bay Green Dollars at the time. And then it became hands when someone came up with the idea of calling it how about a non-dollar system. And we have a lot of fun playing with the whole hands thing, because it's with our hands we create our currency. With our hands, we give to each other and practice reciprocity. Thank you, Brian. So we've got between 8 and 10% of our regional population of just under 5,000 permanent people, or almost 10% are members of our local currency. Now, the difference between a let system and a time bank is a time bank's very egalitarian, and it's about hours, whereas a let system, you can sell products as well as services, and you can charge what you like. If you want to charge, $10 an hour, or you want to charge $50 an hour, you can. So it works a lot like normal money, except it's totally local money. Now, the big thing about local money is it's like that protection thing. Money that goes out through the gas station and the warehouse and those other chains that are owned from outside of the area, and all their product come from outside of the area, that money leaves, that energy that goes with that money, and the money leaves the community very quickly. But a local currency, it all circulates, keeps circulating in that community and being powerful to that community. So we have almost 10% of our people are members. It's run by a board. I've been on the committee at times. We have a really cool directory of our 450 members that has cross-referencing, and it also has started by first name alphabetical as well, and it's a great way to get to know people. I'm a member of a network of 450 people that I can contact, and I know their first name, and so it's a community in itself. So it's our trading using this monetary system is this alternative to national currency, which is in short supply in Golden Bay a lot of the time. We have a pretty hard-pressed economy, very short summer season, and then we're on our own wits. So this is how we can trade all sorts of things. So we have market days. We have some really cool market days. We have printed currency. You'll see the currency over there. We have our printed currency, and like a lot of let systems around the world, we use an electronic platform that runs out of South Africa on ces.org.za, and it's a really cool system. The techies tell me that it's really old school. The new tech platforms for electronic currency are much better, but it's a goodie, and hundreds of local currencies around the world use it, and you can just plug straight in and use it tomorrow. And there's our currency, which reflects the values that our money means to us, about community, friendship, peace, I should know these things. Love. Fancy that, money with love on it. Yes. Connecting, greetings and friendship. I gave one of those to someone from America, and tears came to her eyes, because she always thought money had to be some really, badass thing. And she realised that money could be beautiful, and it can. And it can reflect what we want and our values. So we have little posters, different retail places or businesses, or at the mainstream farmers market will put up their hands accepted here. We have Feast and Festival. That's a festival, or that's an autumn feast, a harvest festival, where sometimes we have, a potluck dinner, but this one was a paid one, so it was a practice, playing with the currency, where you could come and just pay for a 4-course meal, or you could work for it, you could cook or clean, or be a musician that played for it. We pay our musicians well, and 160 people for a sit-down feed using our local currency. Why wouldn't you? Arts are a big part of it. Sometimes we have dedicated art exhibitions where Hands members can display their arts and sell their arts on Hands. I've managed to get some really nice artworks which I wouldn't have been able to afford otherwise. I just got a car. I was driving around in an unwarranted, unregistered van, taking a chance on $500 to get to town and back, and someone sold a car to me totally. At first they wanted part Hands and part Kiwi dollars, and they decided to give it to me totally on Hands. So that was great. We give everybody in our network a 500 credit. Now, you don't have to give people credit. People decide on that. But so all our members are allowed to get a 500 Hands credit. So that creates a whole lot of liquidity. People can get out there and get shopping. But the idea is you're supposed to go through zero all the time. You go up and down, go through zero, keep trading. And if people have too much money in the account or are overdue for a time and not trading, we have someone who contacts them and saying, hey, you need to do some trading or you need to do some spending. So it's a great boost to liquidity in our community. We have we've had cafes that have paid some staff members have been willing to work 1 day a week, because for a lot of retail places, wages are a big part of your cost. So if someone says, oh, I'll work 4 days on Kiwi and 1 day on Hands, then you can build up quite a Hands credit. That might be $150 per staff member a week over a month. So one cafe we had said, well, each month we have 500 Hands credits that we've instead paid wages in, and so first and first served, people can come and get their coffee and their lunch there using the local currency, up to 500, first and first served. Some people, a lot of retailers just say you can pay in 10 or 20% Hands. So it just creates liquidity for business activity and things to happen that we wouldn't. Now, up and down the country, our very kind and considerate investment banker, when he took over, left his office in Wall Street for a moment to come down here and do the job. He took time off his busy schedule when they first came in to cut funding to a few things. One was healthy eating, healthy action, because why would you want kids to know about healthy eating? Because that might damage someone in Singapore's supermarket change margins, but let's not draw conclusions there. But they took time off their busy schedule to cut the funding to adult education. And to my knowledge, just about every other place in New Zealand said, oh, well, we're going to have to cut all our courses because we don't have the funding anymore. Well, in Golden Bay, we said, what do you mean we don't have the money? Of course we got the money, we got Hands. So now we carried on, we run better than ever courses. Yeah, thank you, yes, power to the people. Because we exercised that muscle now. And yeah, we have better than ever courses. We pay our tutors 50-50 Kiwi Hands, and people come and pay 50-50 to come and do the courses, which is a lot more affordable to a lot of people, so they can come and do the courses. And whatever it is, everything from fermented foods to beekeeping and to mechanical work or what have you. We also introduced to our young people that there would be young Hands, so that they could have their own place within our market days, that they could sell their stuff and do trading, learn some entrepreneurial skills. You can pay them in pocket money, in Hands as well, that they can buy stuff with. And that's a great thing, because it teaches kids, about money skills, but also what money really means. It means community, it's about people, it's about human relationships. And of course, on that subject, I just happened to realise I had a story from up this way here in Kaitaia, all about Kai too, and this fabulous school up here. Have I got this right? This is in another school in another part of the world. And this school is where students not only keep extensive gardens, but they also press their own olive oil and make manuka honey from the school's beehives, building technical and business skills along with respect for nature and healthy eating habits. Now we're talking the young entrepreneurs who are fully connected, who that's an education we're talking about. I like that. You got to come to the north. So when it comes to these monetary systems, it's basically like this. Whatever you can imagine and build a platform for that enough people want to use, and there are off-the-shelf platforms you can use, that can become your currency. That reflects your values and meets yours and this community's needs. Money is a fantastic enabling invention, and as is credit. but it's lost its way. It's completely on the wrong track. Well, someone once said a lame person can beat an Olympic sprinter in a race if the Olympic sprinter's on the wrong road to start with. Money's great, but it's lost its way. We've got to reclaim it, and it's ours now. This is our century. Stop using this old technology. It's time for people's money, multiple currencies that are complementary to each other and complementary to the national currency. And the new understanding of the technology allows us all sorts of liberating and new creative ways to do that. So with the last 2 minutes, well, I better make that really quick. I should have stopped taking such long breaths. A little bit, we are now in the age of collaborative culture. Social media platforms are allowing people to rethink how they, much more creative, smarter ways of collaborating and sharing. And people are doing things like carpooling and you know, in neighbourhoods. Do I need a tool shed? Do I need my own bicycle or my own car, or could I be part of a collective? The economics of it are really, really good. And that's all going away. There's a book there called What's Mine Is Yours, which explores it. But you only have to look up collaborative culture, and you're all part of it, probably in 100 ways. So it's all about these community connections, because that's social capital. So you're talking about money and wealth and assets. Social capital is the one. And these connections, that's what it is. You live in a connected neighbourhood, you feel nurtured, nourished, safer, cared for, you can cooperate with each other, you can buy food collectively, you can grow food, you can look out for each other, you can share that ride. And, marais and churches have so, cracked that over time. They do great things, and they've got this. So how do we take that out to the wider community? So everybody's got it. Everybody's got the secret. And so there's these fabulous platforms, these social media platforms, and they've been used for collaboration, in all sorts of communities. It can be globally. Suddenly you've got 10 million people on a campaign that needs fighting. Or you can be crowdfunding things, the hundreds of millions of dollars that things like Kickstarter have allowed people to do. In 1 year, there was $34 million for art projects raised that people went direct to the this is the future, investing and saving. Forget the banks and all the rest of it. They either come along and be good, and they're good ethical citizens we want, or they can, but we don't really need them anymore. Financial pooling. The future of finding and investing money is about peer-to-peer. If you're raising money, there's, here in New Zealand, Pledge Me. There's microfinance like Kiva, which is producing, tens of thousands of micro loans to people around the world, like a dating agency with people who have a bit of spare developed world money to put into the third world. It's a beautiful thing, and people build all sorts of connections. We got force-fed for the past half a century the idea that the way the world runs most effectively and best is a competitive dog-eat-dog, free market, carry on. And it's just a big crock of bullshit that we've been force-fed, because, dogs don't eat dogs, and that is not the most effective way to run a society and get ahead and get our needs met and feel good. And people now are doing it. And we have, here in New Zealand, Brian and Joe, Helen brought in from the JAK Bank in Sweden with her people over there over years with living economies. Brian and Joe picked it up, the genuine wealth system that's now been called savings pools. Maybe it will evolve into sharing pools, but people have just come up from Auckland, where the first savings sharing pool association meeting, SPA, which is peer-to-peer savings clubs. And I'm just going to grab a little bit on this, Ken, if I may, because it will lead into the panel stuff. So I think there were about 6 or 7 of us in Living Economies board who said, well, we've talked about this, let's put it into action. So basically, you get a group of people, you might have 10 people, and they all might choose to put in anywhere from $5 to $50 a week on a savings things. Maybe some people can just put in $5 a week. Some people 10, maybe 20. So you have a savings program going, and it's held. It's mainstream money held in a bank account, and so I need a loan for my car, or I need some dental work done. Good, I need some whole new teeth, I think. But anyway, and so I can call upon, make an application to the loan, which is we won't call it a loan, but draw on from this collective club, this pool of people, and they could be any pool. They could be the people in this room, or they could be people up and down the country, a member of your family, or some kind of network. And so then I might say, I need $500 that I would like from the group. It's interest-free money, totally interest-free. And some people are using this system now to pay mortgages. Instead of to the bank, they've put it in a savings pool. Why would people want to put their money and get interest-free money? Because it's about people. It's about people they know, because they feel safer with their money, with real people invested in those things they need. So these savings pools, forget GE Finance and all the rest of it, people self-organising themselves to collectively pool their money. Some people have got money sitting in a bank and they're terrified that it may evaporate. There's a lot of people in the world at the moment with their either well-deserved or ill-gotten gains who are worried that it's going to evaporate, because that's the kind of weird global monetary system we got. Money can evaporate real quickly. So maybe, I don't know if we'll have time to say, but officially it's called savings pools, or genuine wealth system, or sharing pools. This is a really exciting way for people to invest. And of course, there's a good book out that, I think, have you read this, Ken? Local Dollars, Local Cents? Of course he has. So Ken's running the book club. You're going to have some, coming out of this conference, you're going to have some hubs, all sorts of hubs, because this coming out of here, it's a doing thing. And you need people in each community doing some study on these new financial instruments, as we've called them, these new different systems, and you want to learn up. So you want a bit of a book club, you want to study. This book came out last year, Local Dollars, Local Cents. He's a lawyer in America. He suddenly realised that if all the small investors pulled their money out of the planet-killing Ponzi scheme, which is Wall Street, and put it into local economies, that overnight there'll be $2 to $3 trillion released into the American, Main Street economies of America. And he wants to get local stock exchanges going, which is a lot of obstacles to that. But like Brian and Joey, sort of a lot of clever ways around that. And this book's full of ways that people are building all sorts of clubs and sharing schemes so that the money comes in. I met a guy, a friend of Nicole's, Tom, in Milwaukee. And, all across the Rust Belt there, you ain't seen nothing. The once great America, places where you can buy a beautiful 3-bedroom house in a nice neighborhood for $1,000. You're walking around post-industrial collapse kind of, because they put it all in a monoculture. Dairying will go on forever. Not the fact that, I think I read in the Herald that for every kilo of butterfat that's worth $8 and a bit, there's $20 of debt. Dairy industry's carrying $350 billion of debt. But nothing can touch it, and the tourists will always come. But over there in Milwaukee, Tom, he listened to Nicole, and he went and got his money out of Wall Street. He had 60 grand, and he went and put it into 6 different businesses, 10 grand a pop: a bike shop, a bookshop, a hostel, a sausage place that made sausages, and a couple of other things. So now, within walking, cycling distance of where he lives, he can go and see where his money's working. His neighbourhood is healthier and better. We invest for security in a system that's guaranteed to steal our security from the future, because it's killing the planet. It's faceless, corrupt people who have lost their way because they've been following a crazy value system. So if we got the investment money in Northland that's sitting in that system and got it coming back home and working here, that would be a really good thing. So we have that. We have these ways of using that mainstream. And what industries would we be putting that into? Well, cool, health-giving industries for a start. Local food. Local food's a no-brainer, especially over there in America, because they're all eating such terrible food. It's guaranteed to make them sick, and they can't afford the health care and they're all in fear. It's crazy, but they don't have as good a climate as here. That's Village Milk, where Village Milk in Golden Bay, that started. They used to be industrial dairy farmers. They were pioneers of it down in Canterbury. And now they have 30 cows, A1 and A2 cows, semi-organic, and you can go there. There's a vending machine at the dairy shed, and you get this nice chilled kind of organic milk for just over half price of what we'd pay at the supermarket for it, and he's getting 3 times what Fonterra would be paying for him. You know, it's a no-brainer. Farmers, people need to, there are easy platforms for buying direct from your local food producers. You know, let's all get healthy, why don't we? The local building society, I'm not sure what your local credit unions or building, we have the Nelson Building Society down in Tasman. There's plenty of mechanisms for that mainstream reinvesting into your local community. Prometheus supports that thing. Now I'll just say one last thing, Ken, before I get shot in the back, but you led the way, Ken. And if you'll forgive me, makerspaces. You know, what I said before, what is money? You know, part of money is energy, but it's these human values and attributes, and our part of it. It's our story. They're all interlocked. You know, it's all part of our economy. It's you know, our economy isn't something over there. We are our economy. It's all about us and serving us and what our needs are. But part of what our value and monetary system is around technology. It's around innovation. So across the world, we now need to reinvent the future. And there are some fabulous big high-tech stuff, but never underestimate the low-tech stuff. You know, and the new model, you know, here in New Zealand we've got, I think about 60 men's sheds up and down New Zealand, which are really cool places with, you know, carpentry and a bit of light engineering. But the new model is makerspace. Seen one in Milwaukee, well, you know, heard about some where people have taken over old disused supermarkets and the like. And you get everybody in there. You get some light engineering, carpentry, industrial sewing, you get people in there doing robotics and 3D printers, you get artists, multimedia. You get in there and have a cross-pollination of ideas and skills, and you couple that with your local currencies so that people who are working it are getting paid for it. And the great joy of not having a high, you know, real estate overhead, you can probably afford to get that space. The council will just give it to you, of course. And you get going, you know, that's what you do. You get going and you start reinventing the future and what we're going to need. The world is going to land hard on its butt. We've backed this unsustainability thing, you know, Ken wasn't just making it all up. This stuff's been on the table for 20, 40, for 50 years. And this is, now we're in the future. And it's all about coping with unsustainability. It's coping with it. And we've got to be adaptable, and part of that is how we do it. So. And I would advocate community asset mapping, but that's another story. If you don't know what you got unless you know what you got. This day and age, we should be able to, at our fingertips, know all the different assets we've got. And once we look at it that way, then we realise that we're actually pretty rich. Robinson Crusoe turned up and he only had some shoelaces or something and some brass bazoos, but he was very pleased for everything we have. We've got a lot. Get your kids, get your high school kids drawing a map of the far north and all the assets you got. Do get the kids involved all the way. So money, as we say in Golden Bay, it's in our hands.